Coming up this morning on the Dattitude podcast, the Saints went out and had a fantastic Thursday by taking the best offensive lineman on the board with the 9th pick of the NFL draft. At least one local podcast host got his hopes up that this would be the weekend when this franchise dug itself out of the wallows of mediocrity or beyond and back heading north. Then came day two. And with pick 40, we learned that maybe everything that has been said about the dreaded quarterback situation might be as bad as it seems. And it only got worse from there. How much did we learn about the state of the franchise from this draft? And does someone owe his audience an apology? The crow isn't thawing yet, but it has moved to the front of the freezer, and I've dusted the ice off of it. Gabe is here to chime in, and we'll also talk about Shedeur's shocking fall. And my last word is on the golf tournament that was played in New Orleans this past weekend. Yes, there was a golf tournament that was played here in New Orleans this weekend. I'm sure you all watched from start to finish. Speaking of starts, it's time to crank up the comment machine. I can't wait. And get Mano E Monday rolling. This should be good.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? How did this weekend go for you? Were you excited? Are you still excited? Or do you think the Saints had a great draft, an average draft, a terrible draft? Where are you? Are you a big Tyler Shough fan? Or are you, well, I mean, I don't know. Don't get me started. I'm gonna start soon enough. Trust me. I'm going to start soon enough on what I think about Tyler Shough. We got a lot to get to before all that. What I do have to say is this is Dattitude, episode number 367, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Monday, April the 28th, 2025. In case you don't know this, and you just stumbled upon this by some happenstance, boy, are you in for a treat. I'm your host, Jim Derry, Jim Derry. That's D-E-R-R-Y. 34 and a half years in the New Orleans sports media scene. I thank you for being a part of the ever-growing Dattitude family. What is on the show today? If you're listening after the fact, you can't see the little list of things that are on the show today, but I think you pretty much all know what's on the show today. And the first thing is, I don't get it. I mean, I guess I kind of get it. We're going to get into why I don't get it. I thought the Saints had a fantastic Thursday. I thought Kelvin Banks was an outstanding choice. If you watch the live draft show, you know that I think that. I've been saying for months, I thought the Saints would draft an offensive lineman in the first round. They did draft an offensive lineman in the first round. They drafted the best one that was available. They drafted a guy who is a team captain, who is going to start right away, whether it's at left tackle, right tackle, or left guard. I don't think we know the answer to that yet. We'll get into that. Unfortunately for Kelvin Banks, I think we have a lot more to talk about than Kelvin Banks. So I think today's focus is probably going to be on the second pick, and not necessarily just the second pick. What does the second pick mean for this franchise? Does it mean you were not all of you, because some of you have been on my side, but does it mean that a lot of you were right about the whole Derek Carr situation, that he will never play for the Saints again? I don't necessarily think that, but regardless of whether Derek Carr plays for this team ever again, I think drafting Tyler Shough at number 40 does say something. It says a lot. Going to get to that. I actually have a Derry's dime this morning. What about the other picks? We're going to talk about all 9 Saints picks here this morning. Every single one of them. We got a little slide for you. Every single one of them, we're going to talk about them, get into each one. Maybe what I think about them, maybe what you think about them, your comments. What does it say? Again, each pick to me says something about where this, not just the state of this franchise, but each pick to me says where this franchise thinks they are. Are they realistic? Are they just blanking with us? Are they just effing with us? Are they effing with themselves? Are they living in la la land? Or are we wrong? Are you wrong? Am I wrong? Whatever it is. That's what's on the show today. What about Shedeur Sanders and his great fall all the way down to the 5th round? I got to say, I was one of the very few. I'm going to tell you where I was right, but I'm also going to tell you where I was wrong. I was right in the fact of, and I don't take any pride in this, none at all. I said for a couple weeks that I thought Shedeur Sanders would fall to the 2nd round. Now, I backed off a little bit on Wednesday and Thursday and said that I thought it would be picked after. I didn't think the Steelers would take him at 21. I thought he would be taken after the 21st pick, maybe at the bottom of the 1st round. Maybe someone would trade up. But I had been saying for weeks that I thought Shedeur Sanders would not get picked on opening night and that this would be the story of the draft. That part I was right on. The part that I was wrong on, and everyone was wrong on, that he fell to the 5th round, I would have never, ever guessed that. I mean, we are definitely going to spend time talking about that this morning. It'll probably be this afternoon before we get to it. Gabe Henderson is here. He's going to talk about that. He's going to talk about what he thinks about that. The Saints, he'll give his little input on what he thinks about the Saints as well. We're going to do man versus machine later. Almost the end of the show. Let's just say they're both doing very well right now after a pretty poor start for both man and machine. Machine got cranking, man. Machine's on fire, and man is right there with him. And then the last word today, as I said before, golf. What golf? I definitely have some thoughts on the Zurich Classic for New Orleans. It's going to be the last thing I talk about today. I'm not going to waste any time here in the early part of the show talking about the Zurich Classic of New Orleans because, sorry, I don't mean to offend anyone. It just doesn't deserve talk in the first part of the show. You can be a part of the show by typing in your comment. We have several in the stream already, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. If you haven't already done so, we had a lot of people subscribe to Dattitude, our YouTube page this weekend. We're about to hit a milestone. You know, if you've been watching the show, I've been talking for months and months trying to get people who are watching on Facebook, get them over to YouTube. We're averaging, as of late, somewhere around, I think it's 10,600. This year, the average viewers per show right now is about 10,600 this year per show. Where I have a problem with, I love you all, thank you so much, but the problem that I have is a vast majority of those are coming in from Facebook. I want you all to come over to YouTube and be a subscriber. As of this morning, I think we were 16 subscribers away from the 1,000 mark, which is significant considering we started from nothing last year. I mean, when we started this thing, we took over the Bayou Bets page, and I think we had fewer than 200 subscribers, or right around 200, somewhere around there. And so we've built this thing up almost 5 times where we started last March. Please, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Dattitude YouTube page. You can get in touch with me on X at Jim Derry Jr. via email, jderry@theadvocate.com. Now, I'm going to get into the comment stream here, okay? But I have a Derry's dime, so I'm not going to show every single comment that's up here right now. We're going to get in. Today's Mano E Monday. We are most certainly going to spend almost our entire day or morning or however long I'm with you. There is no set time. We might be here an hour and a half. We might be here 2.5 hours. Who knows? So I'm going to try to get to everyone. We're going to get to comments. That's what today's about. But I got to get in my dime as well early here. Charles Mangus, good morning. Where you at? He thinks we had a pretty decent draft. A couple of undrafted players. We'll see. That's not how you spell Shough, but we'll see how he fits in Kellen Moore's system. Yeah, we will. Yikes. Apathy. Everyone wanted something different the moment the Saints season ended. Well, we got something different. A high pick spent on a quarterback. I love what they did in the draft, especially in day 3. I don't necessarily dislike what they did. I dislike what it says. Again, getting ahead of myself. Scott, good morning, everyone. Gary, good morning. Chad Gage, hello, everyone. Mark Gapsky, going to give the draft a B-. I can tell you right now, if you came here looking for me to give the Saints a draft grade, you came to the wrong place. It ain't going to happen. I'll tell you what I think, and you can make up whatever grade you want out of what I say, but I think grades or draft grades are kind of silly. They're just meant for clicks. Not that I wouldn't do something for a click if someone told me to. Anyway, we're getting way off topic. Nola man, good morning. Phil, Mariande, Saints got an offensive lineman and a defensive tackle. That was your big guess before the draft. Yeah, I thought they would get an offensive lineman. I wasn't thrilled about the defensive tackle part. I wish they would have got an edge rusher where they picked the defensive tackle, but who knows? Maybe Broughton can play more of an edge. We'll see. Maybe he works in a 3-4 in a way that I don't understand. We'll see. Rocky's here. Good morning. Scott says Mel Kiper must have laid down some money on Shedeur Sanders getting drafted. He was pissed. Boy, was he. And then he was even more pissed. He was and Gabe sent me a text. I didn't see this. I think it was Gabe that sent me this text that he gave the Browns an A+ because they drafted Shedeur. You were blasting the Browns on Friday evening and Saturday morning. And then you give him an A+ because they drafted Shedeur. Get out of here. That dude needs to go. I'm so sick of Dr. Vitalis, I could scream. Okay? Dude's a numbnuts. Just is. UBN, Zurich was a great time Saturday and Sunday. I'm glad you had a great time. I got to say, I'll probably never go to the Zurich Classic again if they keep it on this weekend. Not getting ahead of myself and what the last word's about. You know what? I might as well put the Saints slide up because I think we're well into Saints here. Corey Terrier looks like the starting quarterback will be the Rat. Not a shot in hell. If you thought there was, look, I said what I said before. No chance the Rat is the starting quarterback. I'm not going to say 0.0. I'll say 0.1. How about that? Because somebody could get hurt, whatever. I'm going to get into who I think the starting quarterback is going to be in just a minute. Thank you, Gabe. We'll get into that. Chad says first thought grade C+. Okay. You can't argue with that grade. I guess you can't. You couldn't really. I could argue with an A. I could probably argue with an F. I don't think I could argue with any other grade. Cecil Evans not happy with that selection of Dollar General Josh Allen with the second pick. Okay. I don't know that I'm going to compare Tyler Shough to Josh Allen. I know some people are. That ain't me. Dylan Smith, good morning, Dattitude family. Christopher Favo, what about Tyler Shough? What about him? Derry's dime coming up in just a second. Mal, I'll play the results. Draft grades are meaningless until these guys take the field. Amen. Amen. What else we got? Mark Gapsky likes the Danny Stutzman pick. I don't have a problem with it. But in the list of needs for this team, where's linebacker? I don't know. I don't have a problem with that pick at all. A lot of people like it. That's definitely not one I'm going to waste a lot of time talking about. We'll see. Oh, I've not seen Stutzman's post. Gabe? I've not. Mark Satanovich bought yourself a Spencer Rattler jersey. Hey, if you like buying jerseys for a quarterback that's either going to be a backup or might not even make this team, then good for you. Just saying. Let's see. What else we got? Who Dat Daddy's here. Oh, I couldn't wait for you this morning, Who Dat Daddy. For those Who Dats who didn't want Shedeur, be careful what you ask for. Tyler sucks. Well, here's one thing. I'm not trying to be mean, but all of you Who Dats out there who wanted the Saints to pick Shedeur at number 9, don't be a hypocrite. You can't still think that would have been a good idea. If you still think picking Shedeur Sanders at number 9 would have been a good idea, you probably need to start investing in stale breadcrumbs to go feed pigeons on Sundays. Because he got drafted right about where Spencer Rattler got drafted last year. Just saying. Shedeur Sanders' chances of starting in the NFL, he'll probably start a game or two here or there because there'll be a backup quarterback somewhere. What are the chances Shedeur Sanders is going to be a starting quarterback in this league? I'm saying not too good. Lance Dobard, who that, baby? Dylan, yeah. Good question. Why all the hate on the Saints not picking, but none on the Steelers? No clue. And if the Browns wouldn't have taken him, they probably wouldn't have hated on the Browns that much either. I have no idea. No clue. John Carter, I'm with you. Just wants to start back winning. I'm with you. Lisa Brown says she's who we that, believe that. She's confident in Moore because our head coach, look at how badass the Eagles O-line was under Moore. Oh, I love the Banks pick. Absolutely love the Banks pick. Earl's Picks is here. All he knows is excited about the start of the season. Who dat, baby? David said he said that Sanders would fall below the 50th pick. I didn't see that, but nobody had him falling that far. Chad says he's not sure who any quarterback will throw to. Olave is one tackle away from retirement. Shaheed is coming off an injury. Johnson is so inconsistent. I believe we did not address the needed explosive offensive weapon. I agree. One of the major problems I have with this draft, and a major problem with drafting a quarterback in the second round at number 40. I mean, this part's not in Derry's dime, but here, one of the biggest problems I have with Shough is, okay, Tyler Shough is your pick. That's the quarterback that you have decided is best for this franchise. By the way, let's don't kid ourselves. I'm going to show a clip from Mickey Loomis. I'm sure that'll drive the numbers straight down a little bit later. It's about a 2-minute clip from Mickey Loomis. And if you read through the lines, if you listen to what he said, and you know how we are on this show, because the Saints are never going to tell you anything. Sometimes they'll let things slip and say things through their teeth or through the lines. You got to read between the lines. You got to be a poker player. Mickey Loomis is a poker player. If you read through the lines, they wanted to trade up and get Dart. They want all the rumors about them trading back into the back end of the first round and get Dart. I think they were all true. If you listen to what he says, if you listen closely to what he says, Giants beat him to the punch. And then they stayed put at 40, getting Shough. But could they have got Shough in the third round? I certainly think so. Who was rushing out there to get a quarterback after the Saints? No one. The Steelers weren't picking until 84 or whatever. Would they have traded up to get Shough? I doubt it seriously. Shough would have still been there when they picked again. And even if you don't think he was going to be there, you would have been much better served to take something at 2 that you really, at 40 that you really needed, i.e. wide receiver, one of the top running backs, skill cornerback even. One of those 3 things, in my opinion, that you really needed. Running back, wide receiver, or cornerback. Any of those 3 things at 40, and you still could have got Shough either in the third round or taken those 2 third-round picks and moved up just a little bit and got him for sure. Would Shough still have been there at 60? Absolutely. How do you know, Derry? Because no one else wanted the dude. Let's get real. No one else needed a quarterback. Quarterbacks were dropping like stones. They were dropping. Dylan Gabriel, for Christ's sake, went before Shedeur Sanders. And just look at where the quarterbacks went. The Saints thought themselves again. Again, we're going to get to that. I think that's probably why I'm upset about the pick. Look, as you could tell, I'm not a big Tyler Shough fan, okay? I'm getting ahead of myself. Again, I got a lot to say about the whole situation in my dime. I don't love Tyler Shough. There are probably 3 or 4 other quarterbacks I would have rather the Saints took. However, one thing we talked about on the Insider Show on Friday night that I did from my truck in a parking lot after I did a play-by-play for a baseball game. But I agree with Zach Ewing and Jeff Duncan to the extent of, look, even though this isn't the quarterback I would have taken, they know They did the research. They think this is the guy best for them. Kellen Moore is coming in. The rookie head coach deserves to say, this is the quarterback I want. I think it was probably Dart 1 and Shough 2. They didn't get Dart. Giants beat him to the punch. So they went out and got Shough. Okay. I can't argue with that part of it. But again, you have so many other needs. Even if you think Derek Carr is not coming back, again, coming up to that, you don't pick Shough there. You reached for Shough. He would have been available later on. I don't think there's very few people I think that don't think that Shough would have been available later on. That's the problem I have. Earl's pick says, just bums them out that all the horrible crap Saints fans are already saying to our new quarterback without giving him a shot to make him feel welcome. Look, Earl, today in the day of social media, people just feel like they can just say whatever they want. And look, when you go on social media and read, how much stuff is positive? Not a lot. It's more negative than positive because people just feel bad. Because there are so many Shedeur Sanders fans. There's so many people. The people who wanted the Saints to draft Shedeur Sanders, they're not telling you now that they think the Saints should have drafted him at 9 still. All the ones who said they should have drafted him at 9, no. They're just saying they should have drafted him. Could have got him in the 3rd round or the 4th round. Yeah, you could have. But something obviously is going on with Shedeur Sanders, why he wasn't wanted. Again, we got a whole segment on that coming up. John Pace, good morning. Brian Cabot, good morning, who dat? Draft didn't move the needle much for him. Yeah, didn't really move the needle much for me either. Kyle, good morning. Good on this draft. Let's see what else we got here. Jason Benson, you're getting ahead of me. This is part of this is a major part of the dime. Jason Benson says, I really wonder if Derek's shoulder injury and whether or not he'd play this year was based on where they drafted a quarterback. I still think it's all a bunch of horse hockey. Charles Schulman, it's going to be wait and see. John Pace says, I thought it was a solid draft given our circumstances around quarterback. If Carr was healthy, we could have gone without picking a quarterback. Still didn't need to take one in the 2nd round. Barry Ulay, good morning. Kuiper must get money to promote mediocre talent. Jay Tucker Rafferty, his favorite pick is Danny Stutzman. Derek Branch thought the Saints draft was solid. Christopher Fava, Rattler isn't the day one starter. Is it Tyler Shough? It depends on if Derek Carr is here or not. If there is a dude wearing a number 4 jersey on the field on September 7th, that person wearing number 4 jersey is going to start. If not, whatever number Shough wears, and it ain't going to be 9. It's going to be Tyler Shough. It's not going to be Spencer Rattler. Ray Steyer says, good morning. Doesn't think Carr ever takes another snap as a Saint. Doesn't see how fans will boo him out the dome. I'm going to go back to this. The part about the fans booing him out the dome. No one in the Saints organization cares about whether Derek Carr gets booed. That has nothing to do. The decision on whether Derek Carr plays quarterback or not has absolutely nothing to do with what the fans think. Not a single thing. Nothing. Nothing. I'm going to pass over. If you already commented, keep on commenting, but I got to get to my dime. And there are still plenty of comments from people I haven't mentioned yet. Daryl Romero, we got our offensive lineman that starts up front. That's what's important. Who dat? Amen. Joseph Long, Todd McShay loves Shough. We'll see. Few people will love Shough. That's what I'm saying. Just because I don't doesn't really mean anything. Apathy, never saw a bigger disagreement between expert draft pundits and what the NFL thought about Shedeur. Amen. That's true. Mally Mao says Shedeur will beat out Gabriel. At what? Poker? Sean says, Browns have too many quarterbacks in the kitchen. Hakeem, what's up, big dog? Welcome. He says we had a decent draft. He's going to trust the new head coach's philosophy on how he wants this team built and constructed. I'm having a tough time trusting anybody right now, my friend. Oh, boy. Rafael Gordon says you pass. I think what he means is he's no longer a Saints fan because they passed on Shedeur. Sorry. I think that's what he means. Look, again, I'm no Shough fan, but again, if that's the quarterback they think best fits their system, I think you got to trust that. It's not who, it's where. Who that daddy says the whole league didn't think Tom Brady was a starting quarterback either. It was a seventh-round pick. It was a sixth-round pick, actually, who that daddy. But yes, he was like 200 and something. He might have been I think it was 200. I think he was exactly 200. He was the 200th pick of the draft. I guess the 2000 draft. Same year as Breeze, I think. A-Town says, good morning. I think the Saints might convince Aaron Rodgers to come in on a one-year deal. No. Corey Terrio. Then who is the starter? I told you. There are two possibilities. Derek Carr, Tyler Shough. They didn't go draft Tyler Shough in the second round for him to sit on the bench. He's not going to sit behind Spencer Rattler, a fifth-round pick. Ain't going to happen. What if Kellen Moore loves Spencer Rattler? If he loved Spencer Rattler, they wouldn't have drafted Tyler Shough in the second round. They wouldn't have. They would have waited. Ain't going to happen. Also, as Gabe says, Tom Brady didn't qualify for Medicare when he got drafted. Well, that's a whole different story. We got a lot of new people and a lot of different people commenting this morning. Smoke says, Shough not really good and starting by the end of the year. It's a waste of a second-round pick. Might be a waste of a second-round pick. Reese St. Cyr, Trey Harris, and Trey Amos were there. Yeah, they were. Let's see what else we got. I gotta get to the dime. Mark Simino loves the running back pick in the 6th. Me too. That is definitely I think that's one of we will definitely be talking about that. That we will definitely be talking about that. All right. Before we get to the dime this morning, again, lots of comments to talk about. Keep them coming. Keep the comments coming on this Mano E Monday. But before we get to more comments, the rest of the show, let me tell you about our friends at Evangeline Securities. Oh, yeah. Evangeline Securities. We might all be thinking about Evangeline Securities and selling our business and maybe moving to a city that doesn't have these sorts of drama situations at quarterback. Maybe we can move to Buffalo. Sell our business, move to Buffalo. And move to, I don't know, the Patriots are going to be good again. Look at what Mike Vrabel did with the Patriots. Move to Boston. Now, you don't want to move to Boston? Okay. What about the D.C. area? Jaden Daniels. Commanders, they're talking about they're going to have that stadium. They're going to build a new stadium on the site of the old RFK. That's exciting. So, what do we need to know? Evangeline Securities, what can they help us with? They're a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can figure out what that business is worth. If that's you or someone you know, it's time to reach out to Evangeline's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemelt. They will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation of your company from their offices either on Poydras Street, you know where that's at, or in Lafayette. And from there, you will be well-informed, begin to make the decision on if you want to proceed. What happens after that? We'll fill you in more later in the show, but in the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. If you're thinking about selling your business and moving to D.C. and hail to the Commanders. Oh, wait, that's not how the song goes. You know what I mean. Evangeline Securities. All right, time for the dime. So before I share more thoughts on the weekend the Saints had, I want to make it very clear. I agree wholeheartedly with Scott Van Pelt. Grading any team's NFL draft immediately after it's over is insanely stupid. No one person could possibly know which players will pan out, which ones will go on to become all pros, and which ones could change the fortunes of a franchise. I certainly will not sit here and tell you I know more about Kelvin Banks or Tyler Shough or Leonard Broughton or any of the other 6 draft picks the Saints made more than the administration of a football team that obviously has spent months scouting all of these players. However, what I can offer an opinion on is who being drafted, when and what it says to the state of the black and gold. So let's start with Tyler Shough. Of course, you will ask my opinion on him. You already have. And as we go along this morning and into the early afternoon, his name might be mentioned more than any other in this show. It's part of my job to tell you my opinion of him as a player, even though in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter what I or you think about Tyler Shough. What does matter is why the team felt as if it needed to draft a quarterback that early in this draft. It tells me that I don't think they have been upfront with us. All along, everyone wants to blame the incumbent at quarterback, Derek Carr, who I still think will be the signal caller on September 7th when the Saints take the field for the first time in the 2025 NFL season. Mickey Loomis has said as much. If Carr is here, he will start. And I don't believe for 1 second there will be a quarterback competition. It's either Carr or it's Shough. However, one of two things must now be true. Either the Saints have known all along something was wrong with Carr's shoulder, and they restructured his contract anyway, deferring tens of millions of dollars into salary cap purgatory instead of just cutting ties with someone they know not to be a part of their future, and in turn, deepening the hole further of future teams, which would make many in the Dattitude family right and the host of this show very wrong. Or they just recently found out about it, which would make them even more inept for not doing their due diligence. I can't see a third option. Can you? I guess option 2B would be if you just found out about it, you think Carr is standing his ground and you're calling his bluff. But even if that's the case, you're still inept for allowing yourself to be put in this situation and be held hostage by something you should have seen coming. Whether or not Tyler Shough is the future of this team at quarterback cannot possibly be known today. Not by Mickey Loomis, not by Kellen Moore, and certainly not by anyone in the national or the local media. But what can be known is even the most pessimistic fan could have overestimated the spot the Saints are in when it comes to their future on offense. And one semi-optimistic podcast host has changed his mind entirely. Fences may be mended between the team and Derek Carr in the near future, which would in turn likely only make a few in the fan base happy. But it wouldn't change anything. I don't mean a damn thing about how poorly this team has handled this situation the past few months. And that's the dime. My thing here is this. Said this before. Everyone wants to blame Derek Carr because they hate Derek Carr. It's easy to blame Derek Carr. I'm not taking up for him. I said this on the shows on Friday night. I've said it to friends and I'm getting bombarded this weekend. I understand why. I'm not taking up for Derek Carr in the way he's handled this situation. David Carr says that the Saints have known all along about the situation with Derek Carr's shoulder. Is he telling the truth? He really doesn't have a reason to lie. I don't like the fact that Derek Carr's not talking about it at all. I'm not saying he's got to go out there and blast the Saints, but at least show your side, present your side. Do you not give a rat's ass that 95% of the people in the town you call home for 6 months a year don't want you here? You should have said something. However, all that being put aside, the Saints have handled this horribly. It's embarrassing what they've done. And not enough has been said about how the Saints have handled this. Because like I said, it's either they knew about it all along and they deferred this money and just millions and millions and millions of dollars in cap hell. I don't even know what the right number is. Besides the fact that you paid, you'd have been better served if you knew this already. Okay? This is why before I would have to apologize to Saints fans and tell you that if the Saints knew about this all along, Y'all were all right. The Saints should have just eaten the $50 million. I was wrong. If that's the case, Saints should have eaten the $50 million and said, to hell with it. We're going to I know it's tough. I know we're going to put ourselves in salary cap hell this year, but you know what? We're going to start with a pretty close to clean slate in 2026. And you still can go draft Tyler Shough. You can still figure out what to do with other players. You got to eat $50 million. Yeah, it sucks you put yourself in this position. But you don't go restructure the contract of a dude if you know he's not coming back, which tells me, again, why I think it's more leaning towards if his shoulder is that bad, and I don't even know if it's that bad. I still think, again, I still believe they will find a way to mend fences. It will not change what I think about how the Saints have handled this situation. But I think it's more option 2. And the Saints maybe knew something. They started to find out more, and their ineptness because they didn't know enough. Did they not do a physical when the season was over like they're supposed to? Or they did and we just don't know about it. One thing's got to be true. No matter what is the real answer, no matter what the truth, whether we find out the truth or not, the Saints have handled this miserably. No matter how much you hate Derek Carr, I'm not saying Derek Carr is not in the wrong. Because he partly is, no matter what happened. But the Saints are clearly have made some major mistakes in this whole situation. Who that daddy says, we agree on the suck pick. I'm not happy about it. One smoke. Couldn't be mad if they picked Shough in the 4th round. No, of course not. And we wouldn't be having the same narrative today. Had they even picked a quarterback in the 3rd round, even with one of the 3rd round picks, wouldn't be the same narrative. We wouldn't just be assuming that Carr's gone, because I've seen many of podcasts out there from local media and reports and whatever. They're still assuming Carr's gone. Why? Because they went and picked the quarterback in the 2nd round? Yeah, now there's all this confusion. We'll learn a lot more next month when they have mandatory mini camp or whatever the hell it is. I got to find the dates on that. I know schedule release is May 14th. I can't wait for that one. Charles Wilder, hate for Shough. I'm not hating on him. Just don't think I think there were, again, probably three quarterbacks better than him. And besides all that, again, doesn't matter that I think there are 3 quarterbacks better than him. I don't care about that. Again, if the Saints think that's the quarterback to pick, great. You don't pick him in the 2nd round. We really wanted him. Well, good. You could find ways to get him and not use the 40th pick of the draft on Tyler Shough. I'm going to go back again. There wasn't a quarterback in this draft that were as good as any of the top 6 from last year. So that means Shough would have been like the 10th or 11th. There's a reason why this dude has been playing college football for 7 years or whatever the hell he was. Again, I'm going to show you. I got little cards, I guess, for each player that was drafted. And there's something that really stands out when you're talking about Tyler Shough. I'm going to get to it in a minute. Like who that daddy says. You don't think we've seen this dude in college? He was there for 7 years and started 1. I mean, what? Doesn't make any sense. Christopher says, we're going to get to Shedeur later. The Browns drafted quarterback, then they drafted Shedeur Sanders. It made no sense. Nah, I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, look, in the 5th round, it's like I didn't like the Spencer Rattler pick last year in the 5th round. However, it was a 5th round pick. I don't have any problem with 5th round picks. You take in something that you don't necessarily need after the 4th round. But you talk about with the Saints pick, another problem I had with this draft. You take a defensive tackle in the 3rd round, might be a great player. The Saints were drafting like they were 11-6 last year, and they're one step away from being in the NFC Championship game. They were drafting best player available instead of drafting for need. Oh, we don't give a damn about need. We don't care if we need skill players. We don't care if we need a cornerback. Well, we'll just go get one in the 6th or 7th round. And then they go draft a safety. You don't need a safety. You probably will eventually. In the 3rd round, you need a cornerback. Can he play cornerback? I don't think so. I just don't get some of the things that are going on right now. Hakeem said, really like the Stanford wide receiver that got picked in the 4th round. Tore Travis Hunter up when they played. That was one of the biggest misses by the Saints not addressing the wide receiver position. Absolutely. And if not wide receiver, again, I like this Kansas running back. I think he's got a great chance to come in here and make this team. It's either going to be him or Kendra Miller, probably, right? We'll get into what the pros and cons are of these players as we go along, because I am going to get into each one in a second. Do I find it funny that Carr addresses an injury after the draft? No. David Carr, like I said, David Carr said that the Saints have known all along. Is he telling the truth? I don't know. Dustin McCann says we'll be back in the draft with the top 10 pick again next year. I mean, it's possible. And then do they go draft another quarterback next year? I have no idea. UBN says the Sanders stuff is insane. Never seen anything like it before. What has he done? What has he won? My God, man. You're ahead of us. We haven't got there yet. John Pace says Brady was 199. Okay. Who dat daddy? So I'm saying they're just going to give Shough the QB1 spot. If Carr's not here, they are. You don't draft the guy. I'm telling you, you don't draft. They didn't draft this guy with the 40th pick of the draft. I'm sorry, Rat fans. I told you what I thought before the draft. I would have much rather. I know I said I was talking about pick number 9, but I should have said number 40 too. I felt the same way. I would have rather them stick with the Rat and start the Rat than take a quarterback at 9 or 40. But they went out and got a quarterback, so you could pretty much think he's gonna start. I mean, I've got to say I'd be surprised, very surprised, if Spencer Rattler is the starting quarterback. 0.1% I'm going to give it. I'm not going to go 0.0. I'm going to go 0.1. What else we got? Really, hit the like button. Absolutely, please hit the like button. All those people telling me that it helps. I don't know how it helps, but they say it helps. So what does it hurt? Brian Cavett says, what is going on with my mouse this morning? Surprised they did not draft a wide receiver. Saw Loomis comment about missing guys because of whatever. Is a guy out there, free agent. Lions trade up to 70 for Tesla. The Lions had a good draft, I thought. I think the Patriots had a great draft. What else we got? Ryan says, I want to get to Mickey's comments in just a minute because, again, I'm reading through tea leaves. Ryan says, called it Shough in the second. Dude got plenty of talent. We'll give Rattler good competition. Not going to give Rattler good competition. If Derek Carr's not starting, it's going to be Shough. You don't draft a quarterback for competition for a guy you drafted in the 5th round last year. Again, if Kellen Moore thought the Rat, even if Kellen Moore is 100% certain Derek Carr is not going to be the starting quarterback next year, which he isn't. But even if he was 100% certain that Derek Carr wasn't his quarterback last year, he's not going to go into this draft. He's not going to go pick a quarterback in the 2nd round to give competition to Spencer Rattler. No, he's getting a quarterback later. Silver Gator, what's up with Taysom's health condition? No idea, my friend. None. No idea. Who dat daddy says if the Saints wouldn't have drafted Shough, he would have gone undrafted. That's not true. That's not true. Come on, man. I don't love it, but that's not true. I'm trying to catch up here. I know I'm way behind. Jason Benson says, think about it. They're dealing with hiring a new coach who's paying attention to DC. Maybe that's a problem. He wasn't getting the attention he needed. And they picked a lot of defensive players in this draft. Oh, that's what I'm getting these church comments for. Derek Carr spoke about it at church about it being injured within the past day. I missed that. But I know David Carr was talking about it. I saw that. So, I mean, David Carr said what Derek Carr said, it's the same thing. All right. Again, I'm trying to catch up because I want to get to Mickey's comments from yesterday, and we're already 45 minutes into the show. Wow. That's hard to believe. Brian Russell, is there a world where management is trying to run the team into the ground where they can sell the team? What is this, Major League? We got the Miss Gale's playing the role of what was her name in Major League? If we can get this team to be crappy enough, we can move them to Miami. No, Brian, they're not doing that. They're just not. I'm trying to be nice here. I don't want them to, to ban me. Got my wires are all caught up here this morning. So I'm trying to be nice with what I say, or at least let you read through the lines. UBN says a lot of people go to school for 7 years. Yeah, they call doctors. I went to school for 8 years. Doctor. I bet you Mel Kiper went to school for 7 years. Call him Dr. Vitalis. Who would I have picked at 40? I would have picked a skill player, or I would have picked a cornerback. That's what I would have done. Jay Bird says he didn't want Sanders. Doesn't fit what the Saints do. I think Daddy Spoon fed him at Colorado. I don't know. I agree and don't all at the same time. Jay Bird. I wouldn't have minded taking Shedeur Sanders in like the 3rd round. I would have been okay with that. If they would have waited and Shough's not there, then take Shedeur. Again, we're talking about, I'm not going to say anything differently that I haven't said already. I don't think Jackson Dart's going to be a starting quarterback in this NFL, at least not for a long period of time. I think he's going to get a chance to start because he was drafted in the 1st round. I don't think he's going to be any better than Danny Dimes was. We'll see. I don't think Tyler Shough's going to be a long-term answer at quarterback in the NFL. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to be a long-term answer at quarterback in the NFL. I don't think Dylan Gabriel is going to be a long-term answer in the NFL at quarterback. Who else have I missed? Any of the other quarterbacks? Put them all on a list. I don't think any of those guys will be quarterback. However, one of them I'll probably be wrong on. I doubt that I'm going to be wrong on more than one. So which one is it going to be? I don't know. We'll see. Montreal gives the Saints a B+. Okay. Hey, I have no problem. If y'all want to give grades, go for it. I'm just not giving you a grade. I mean, you'll get what I think about all this. Coop DeVille says he doesn't think he'll beat out Rattler. Again, I still think it's going to be Carr anyway. Here's the interesting question. Let's just say for a minute Carr comes back, okay? No, y'all don't want to hear that. Y'all don't even want to think about that. If Carr comes back, okay, which I still believe they're going to mend fences and that's what's going to happen, okay? I know no one else is saying it, and I promise you, I'm not just saying that to be different and to tell you, hey, I was the one that told you, because I'll tell you if I'm wrong when I'm wrong. I'd already told you that I've been wrong about the situation already. But what happens if Carr comes back? Do they just have, we talked about this a little bit on Insiders, but does that mean the Saints carry 3 active quarterbacks, or do they just make Rattler inactive every game? Or do they make Shough inactive every game? That would be interesting too. I don't know. Rocky says Hainer is gone. Rattler will be QB2. I think Rocky means if, assuming Carr doesn't come back. David Nola says, I don't know what's going on with my mouse. A lot of Saints fans are delusional about the quarterback position from Carter Shedeur to Rattlers to Shough. Maybe we're the ones being delusional. Brian, I mean 100%. Just think a skill player wasn't chosen in the 6th round. That's my point. They went into this draft, and one of the biggest problems I have I mean, a quarterback is a skill position player, but I hear you. That I know what you're saying. But I'm with you. This team acted like they didn't need it. They got a star running back who's going to be 30 years old on July 25th, and it has 1, maybe 2 years left in him. He's got 2 years on his contract. How many solid years does a 30-year-old running back have left in him? Not many. So that was certainly a need because you really don't have anyone else. Kendra Miller? Nah. You don't have anyone else. And then, look, I love Chris Olave. I still think he's a great wide receiver. But what happens if he gets another concussion? You got to think one more concussion, he's going to think about hanging it up, right? He's got to think about his future. Rashid Shaheed had the big injury. I mean, you don't go get a receiver until picking him up free agency? I have a problem with that for sure. Jay Tucker Rafferty hopes I'm wrong on Shough. I do too, my friend. Earl's pick says that Falcons defense looks scary. Yeah, it kind of does. Nola, man, they will need to draft a quarterback every year until one sticks. It's going to be the new offensive line. Charles Manga says grades before they hit the field are dumb. I agree. Shough, Sean says about Shough, 2 broken collarbones and a broken fibula are good reasons for an extended college career. Yeah, so. There's a lots of good reasons for extended college careers. That doesn't mean he's any better than, dude started really 1 year in college. He was born in 1999. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Good chance we pick quarterback in another draft. Phil says Dr. Vitalis gets an F for draft picks. Blow him up. Blow him up. Reginald Walker says he's relieved that we're not adding to our already existing distractions. Plus, we don't need another entitled, mediocre, cocky quarterback. How do you know that Shough's not mediocre and cocky? Sure about that? I don't know anything about him. I'm not saying he is or isn't. I just don't know. JRBA Daz or Jerbadaz. Junior Badass. Oh, gotcha. Junior. Just give me a minute. I'm slow. All right, Junior Badass. Rattler will be the starting quarterback for the future. He's been in the lab working on everything we've been talking about, what he did to be working on. Hey, I hope you're right. Jeff Haspel thinks Shough is better than most in his view. Rodney Langley wants to know, why is Rattler so high in people's eyes? Hander didn't perform well in 1 start. Rattler didn't do well in multiple, 6 starts, 0-6. Give Hander the same shot as all right, I'm not with you on that. I'm with you on I don't get why everyone loves Rattler so much. However, I'm done with Jake Haener. I got to be honest. Jake Haener, he gone. I think there's a better chance Ben DiNucci is on this team than. That's just what I think. Have we seen Dirty Birds faking like that was us at the prank call and saying, we're gonna get to the Shedeur stuff. All right, Corey Atkins says division. Atlanta 1, Carolina 2, Tampa 3, Saints 4. I'm not picking Atlanta 1 ever again until they actually finish 1. I'm just not doing it. And I'm certainly not doing it as long as they have Dennis Allen Part 2 as their coach, because that's what Raheem Morris is. PJ Abear says Shough is much better than Rattler. I don't know that we know the answer to that. All right. I want to play comments. I'm going to get back to more comment. I'm going to play more comments in just a minute. Get to Gabe also. But I want to play for you because I want to talk a little bit about each draft pick and see what y'all think. Okay. But here we are. We're 55 minutes of the show. I've not even played my 2-minute clip on Mickey Loomis yet. I want y'all to listen to this. I know you don't like Mickey Loomis, and I know it's going to make you cringe when I put him on the screen. I get it. Just listen to these 2 minutes. It's mostly about Tyler Shough and the whole situation and where they thought, what can you glean through the lines? Okay. What do we get out of hearing this? Well, number one, if you listen closely, I think they were ready to pull the trigger and go up. Like all the rumors, I think the rumors are right. Rumors aren't usually right. We talk about expert rumors. I think they wanted to go up and get Jackson Dart. But the Giants beat him to the punch, which is why maybe the Giants, I thought when the Giants went up, what was it, 23 games? Somewhere around there. They went up to get Dart, 25. I thought that was kind of high, but now maybe we see why. Maybe they knew something we didn't know. They beat the Saints to the punch. But anyway, a couple things here. We'll come back to it, and we'll start talking more about each individual pick when we return from this Loomis clip. 2 minutes.
A couple times it was like, hey, do we need to go up to get one of these 2 or 3 guys that we have targeted in this area? And then, look, it looked like we were going to at least get one of them, so we stayed where we were. And then there was a couple times where we were talking about moving back because we thought that there was going to be some guys gone, and they weren't, so we didn't. And I didn't think that any of the deals were like really great value either, so they were fair, but it wasn't like a deal that we can't turn this down. But we talked about taking a quarterback. Even in the first round, and it just didn't fall right for us. So some of that's, just circumstances as opposed to desire, I guess is the right way to say it. But yeah, we love Tyler. That through the evaluation process, we really liked him, and he was available when we were picking, and so pulled the trigger on that. Yeah, I think he's decision making. He can make all the throws. Listen, you guys will get to, you heard it from Kellen the other day. He talked about, the things that he really liked about him. So we all like the same thing. We had a really good visit with him and talked about, starting at Oregon and why that, ended up not working out, and going to Texas Tech, and then going through the injury stuff, and then ending up at Louisville, and the things that he had to do to, in a short period of time to be the leader of that team and perform really well. And it's just all these experiences and how he's handled them, and how that, he talked about how that affected himself, and how he felt like that benefited his growth as a quarterback. And it was impressive.
Yeah, well, it was impressive. Just goes to show you that they had their list. Their list isn't the same as our list. It is what it is. I do want to get into, again, some of these traits. So I'm going to bring up the card here because I do want to start talking about the players themselves. 6'5", 219. That's a big quarterback. But again, this sticks out. See where it says B-Day? And I put B-Day for a reason instead of age. Because when we show the other ones, you kind of get a gist. And I had Gabe look this up for me earlier. How many players on this 53-man at the end of last year? And you may not think this is a big deal. Great. If you don't think it's a big deal, you don't think it's a big deal. I do. For a quarterback or any player. I mean, think about this. Running backs are starting to think about retiring soon at his age. Yeah, he's not a running back. Fine. How many players on the 53-man roster at the end of last year, on the Saints 53-man roster, were younger than Tyler Shough? How many do you think? Just take a guess. 10, 15, 20? 22. 22 players on the Saints roster of the 53-man roster at the end of last year were younger than the guy they just drafted in the second round. That's crazy talk. That's crazy. He's the same age as Jake Haener, who's been in the league for 3 years. He's a year older than Spencer Rattler. Shouldn't bother me, I guess, but it does. Bothers me. Earl's pick says he's okay with Carr coming back. Tyler sits a year and learns. PJ Bear shut much better than Rattler. Can we say that? Just making his predictions. Bucks 1, Saints 2, Falcons 3, Carolina 4. Way too early for that. I'll show him anyway. Sean says Bucks 1, Falcons 2, Saints 3, Panthers 4. Who that daddy? He doesn't like. Who that daddy? Tell me. Who do you like least? Carr or Loomis? No, you don't like either one of them. Ryan Russell. What will it take to get Mickey moved upstairs? He's already upstairs. What do you want him? I mean, he's in charge. They ain't firing him. You're right. He's gonna leave when he wants to leave, man. Brian says makes that face. You want to throw a bucket of mud at him. I don't want to throw a bucket of mud. I don't feel the same way about Mickey that y'all do. But I can tell you that I don't think this team has handled this situation very well. All right, let's talk about Tyler Shough because I want to get to Kelvin Banks. We have not spent any time talking about Kelvin Banks. We've already spent an hour talking about Tyler Shough. We'll spend a lot of time the rest of the week. I don't know who my guest is on Wednesday. We will have one. Jeff Duncan is going to be my guest on Friday. I know that. We're also going to get his Kentucky Derby picks. Let's just say the Kentucky Derby picks on this show, they've been pretty good the last couple of years. All right, this is according to Dane Brugler, okay? His strengths: prototypical size, passing twitch and arm strength, efficient hitch-free release. Arm strength gives him access to every inch of field. Elasticity, deliver throws from every arm, different arm angles. Okay, I keep hearing about his arm strength, but when I was watching, and he does have arm strength, don't get me wrong, but when I was watching some of these highlights, he also did some kind of silly things with that arm strength. Moves better than expected. Okay, I'm not calling him Josh Allen, sorry. Actually, accuracy doesn't dip when throwing on the move. Catalyst for home run plays. He was tied with Cam Ward for fourth in FBS with 7 completions of 50 yards or more in 2024. He learned about toughness at a young age. He probably might not even remember it if he learned it at a young age because that was so long ago. He watched his mother, who is his biggest inspiration, battle breast cancer. That will make a kid tough, I would guess, going through that. And he engineered an offense that averaged 36.6 points per game in 2024. Some of his weaknesses, according to Dane Brugler: only 1 full season of starting experience on college resume. I'm sorry, Sean, I don't care about how many injuries you have. If you played in college for 7 years and you only started 1, what makes you a second-round draft pick? I have no idea. Eventually, here's a weakness, eventually finds the right read, but often lingers on other targets before getting there. We already have a quarterback that does that. He was drafted in the 5th round last year. He's too willing to throw tardy 50-50 prayers into coverage, especially under pressure. Who is he, Aaron Brooks? His ball placement is workable, but could be more consistent. Suffered 3 major injuries in his 3 seasons in Lubbock, as Sean mentioned. Broken collarbone in September of 2021, missed the final 9 games of the first season. Suffered the same injury in the season opener of 2022, and missed 6 games, and then broke fibula in his left leg in September 2023 because of a hip drop tackle. Missed the remainder of his junior season. Those are a lot of negatives for a guy who was drafted in the 2nd round. Bobby Westbrook, I assume he means needed this. You mean needed Shough? Or you needed the show? I hope he meant the show. Who that daddy says, it's a tough question. Trying to figure out who he dislikes more, Carr or Loomis. That's a tough one for him. What else we got? The Hope. No, I'm not going to show that. Coach Smoke says CJ Stroud, only 23, heading into his 3rd season, has more NFL experience than Shough. Just put things in perspective. And all kinds of experience. All right. Again, we will come back. We will talk more about Tyler Shough, I promise, later in the week, Wednesday and Friday, but I got to move on because I don't want this to just be the Tyler Shough show. Gabe says the same age as Trevor Penning, who's going to his final year of his rookie deal. Exactly. All right. See, now this is going, y'all always got to take it a step too far. Who that daddy? Says this dude couldn't hit a bull in the ass on an iron board. Nah, well, first of all, depends on how far you are away. I mean, if you're trying to throw 20 yards with an iron board, I don't think Drew Brees could hit a bull on the ass on an iron board from 20 yards away. I'm just saying. You ever try to throw an iron board? All right. Moving on. Well, let's talk about someone I really do like. And again, back to my opening comments, I thought Kelvin Banks was an outstanding pick. So let's stop talking about Tyler Shough for a little bit. Give me your comments. I want your thoughts on Kelvin Banks because we never got to speak. We did on the show. A lot of you responded on the show. I know a lot of you weren't happy when they drafted Kelvin Banks, but I was. By the way, look at his birthday, 3/10/04, and he started 3 years in college. He was born in 04, started 3 years in college, 42 games, by the way. Tyler Shough was born in 99 and started 1 season in college. Give me a break. UBN. There was another Louisville quarterback that fell in the draft, just saying. Yeah. You're going to compare Lamar Jackson to Tyler Shough? Get the hell out of here. Just saying. I'm just saying. All right, let's get to what are y'all's thoughts on Kelvin Banks? Want to hear him. What are his pros and cons from Dane Brugler? Strengths. Broad framed with proportionate thickness throughout his body. I'm going to tell you some of my favorites. Moves controlled with initial lateral steps to reach depth landmark and stay ahead of rushers. Patient, skilled hands and protection. Pass protection. I'm not going to read all of these. What are some of the ones I really like? Rolls hips well at contact to win positioning and create movement and run game. That's going to be important. Athletic, that may lead to him playing guard. What I hope happens is they put him at left tackle, move Fuaga to right tackle, and try Penning at left guard and see what happens. That's what I hope happens. But at worst, it'll be Fuaga and Penning on the outsides as it is, and Kelvin Banks just fits in the left guard. I don't think that's going to happen, though. Athletic puller with body control to pace and pick off space defenders like that. Efficient on combinations and pace, close attention to blocking geometry. Durable. Missed only 1 start at left tackle over the past 6 seasons, dating back to his sophomore year in high school. Wow. This isn't on here, but Gabe talked about this the other night. Allowed just 1 sack last year. 1 sack. We'll forget for a moment that it was sack allowed was to Jalen Walker, who's now playing for the Falcons, so I'll have to play twice. And this one's my favorite because remember, look, sometimes I've talked about breaking away from the Sean Payton mold. There's one thing I don't want to break away from the Sean Payton mold, and that's the mold on the type of player. And that's this next one. Humble team captain who is all business, says Dane Brugler. From head coach D. Sarkisian, quote, whenever somebody comes to me and asks, Coach, what do I need to do and how do I need to do it? I say, quote, be like Kelvin. Love it. That's what I want in a leader because your leaders are on the offensive line. Your offensive linemen are supposed to be the ones in the locker room that I don't necessarily think we've seen enough of as of late who help keep this team together. Could Kelvin Banks be one of those guys? You don't become a team captain at Texas if you can't be one of those guys. Love it. Weaknesses. Lack of desired arm strength leads to more catch blocks than you'd like to see. Longer arm defenders can break him down and access his edges. See 2024 Georgia tape. Maybe he isn't a left tackle. Maybe he is a guard. Spends too much time on the ground following off drive blocks in the run game. Lacks overpowering strength to redirect defenders. Again, which is why a lot of experts are saying he's going to be a guard in the pros, and maybe he will be. All of college snaps came at left tackle. Any position change would be a projection. I don't know, and maybe it's just because I'm biased because I really love this pick, but I love the pros way more than the cons. Chad Gage. He's really okay with Banks, really wanted Tyler Warren. I hear you. I'd rather Banks than Warren, but I understand why people wanted Warren, and I wouldn't have been upset if they picked him there. Man, you want to talk about a steal that we won't get to today, but Tyler Warren falling to the Colts, they had to be doing cartwheels in their parking lot. David Nola at 985 says, I was fine with Banks, just wasn't crazy about him when he watched him. Smoke loves the Banks pick. Lance Dobart, patient, opposite of Penning, but he's soft. I didn't see that. I didn't see that he was soft, Lance. But again, maybe that's what's going to make him a guard in the pros. I don't know. Johnny, captain of Texas. Brian, what's funny is he commented about the displeasure on a Saints Facebook page who liked it, but Kelvin Banks, and then I found out some of his family members are from home. Yeah, I did hear that later on. Let's see. Ryan Ashe is very happy with the Banks pick. Not happy he heard a report he may be moved inside. No, I think, look, this is what's going to happen. And I think Mickey talked about this as well. I'm not going to show a 5-minute Mickey or 8-minute or 10-minute Mickey Loomis clip because then y'all would stop watching. But one thing that Mickey kind of talked about is I think the jury's up on the positions of where the linemen are. And I don't think anyone's like really worried about it right now, right? They're going to try him at different places. It's what I talked about on Thursday night. It's why I love this pick. You can go into minicamp and say, you know what? We're going to try to put Fuaga at right tackle and put Kelvin Banks at left tackle and see if Trevor Penning can play left guard. I think you're going to see that. I think there's an excellent chance you see that. If that doesn't work, then you try other different combinations. There are going to be one thing Kelvin Banks does, and I think changes this offensive line. If they were ranked 28th or 29th before, I think automatically they move to like 20th. Okay. So we're looking for some positives. That's a huge positive. And I might be off. I might be pessimistic. They might move up to middle of the pack. Do they have enough depth? No. But if this works out and you're able to move some players around, and Kelvin Banks, not only does he give you the chance to move players around and figure out who goes where on the offensive line, but he also gives you versatility, right? Now you're talking about multiple guys who are versatile, including backups. Very happy with it. Sean says the one sack from Jalen Walker was on Quinn Ewers. Ball should have been good. Don't get me started on Quinn Ewers. I didn't see the sack. Gabe's shaking his head. Yes, he agrees. Quinn Ewers. You want to talk about, hey, at least they didn't get Quinn Ewers. I am happy about that. Quinn Ewers sucks. Smoke says Penning should go to guard, even though he thinks he earned the shot at tackle. Look, again, I'll say it what I've said before. I think Penning did a better job at right tackle than I ever gave him a chance to. Look, if you heard me talk on this show last year at the same time and throughout the summer of 2024, I said Trevor Penning is just awful. He's never going to be anything. And he turned out to be serviceable. Serviceable doesn't make you good. It was okay for last year. Basically, to me, played like a placeholder, which, again, is better than I thought he would be. That doesn't mean he should be your right tackle going forward. And the Saints, they've showed by the fact that they're going to let his contract expire. And if he does great at either right tackle or left guard, then wonderful. You can sign him to a deal. It's probably not going to cost you a whole lot. But the Saints aren't counting on him past this year. Tells you everything to me you need to know, and why I think that off the bat, I think Kelvin Banks is going to get the opportunity to play tackle off the bat. That's my opinion. I don't know this, but I'm going by what makes sense. You know what I do on this show. I'm not right. My batting average isn't, I'll be honest, but common sense, it's got a pretty good average. Brian says, what's funny, the funny part is voices the spudger on the Facebook page. He wanted Warren. All's good now. He said Mr. Banks liked his comment. Gerard Semino, you're right. Offensive line was the biggest need for this team, no question. Mark Semino loves the Banks pick. Thinks he plays left tackle. Jeff Haspel says absolutely great pick at number 1. Lance says he doesn't like him at 9 if he's a guard. But that's the problem, though. You don't know right now if he's a guard or not. So you like him if he's going to start a tackle. What if he is a left guard for this team for the next 10 years? Will you come back here 10 years from now? I'll be retired by then. I might still have a shot. I don't know. Who knows? But would you come back here 10 years from now and say, I changed my mind? You won't remember. I won't either. Terrence says he wanted Walker then Warren, but he does like the Banks pick. And I think everybody's pretty much on the same. I've only heard we heard a lot more negatives on Thursday night. It's funny. Heard a lot more negatives on Thursday about Kelvin Banks. And you know what that was? It was mostly people who wanted the Saints to draft Shedeur Sanders, and you ain't hearing jack from them today. That's what most of that is. Gerard says the best 5-0 lineman will play. I agree. I want to move on. All right, Kelvin Banks. Again, another player we're going to talk about because I want to talk to Dunk about him. Whoever my guest is Wednesday, we'll be talking about him. But we got to talk about these other players. And Gabe's coming on. Gabe and I have quite a bit to talk about. I do want to talk about the Shedeur Sanders situation as well. All right, I'm going to move on to Vernon Broughton. I think I called him Leonard earlier. I don't know. I've got Leonards. I met like multiple Leonards this past weekend. And so the name Leonard is stuck in my head. So I apologize to Mr. Broughton for calling him Leonard. Look at his birthday. He's old. Born in 2001. Still 2 years younger than Tyler Shough. All right, you get it. 6'5", 311. Now look, here's what I think about Vernon Broughton. I'm going to get to his pros and cons from Dane Brugler. But here's my thought on Vernon Broughton. I think he's a great player. However, why I have a problem with this pick here is because it goes back to what I was saying earlier. The Saints were drafting like they were 11-6 last year, not 5-12. Drafting best player available instead of drafting the need. They should have gone skill player here if they didn't go it at 40. If you go and pick the quarterback at 40 and you say, this is what we're doing, one of these three picks has to be either cornerback or running back or wide receiver. They did neither. We're going to get to the other third-round pick in a minute. Jack Hunter, Vernon Broughton was picked way too early. So what does Dane Brugler say about Vernon Broughton? First of all, he was his 20th. So this goes to the last comment. He was his 20th best defensive tackle on the board. 20th best. That ain't good. His strengths, impressive size. You need entire measuring tape for his dimensions. He plays with body quickness to swipe and access gaps. Forceful hands to chop, swat, hands of blockers. Efficient arm over techniques to avoid getting tied up. Has a knack, I like this, has a knack for attacking the throwing arm of the quarterback. Better range in the run game than expected. What does that mean? That sounds like almost like a negative. Like we expected him to really suck in the run game, but he was a little better. Violent finisher when he gets his hands on the ball carrier. Okay. Weaknesses. High cut with lean lowers and elevated pads. Inconsistent snap reaction can leave him a tad late off the ball. Requires a beat when stopping feet to change directions. Body control fluctuates based on his footwork and hip turn, which means he needs a lot of help from his coaching staff. But wasn't some of his coaching staff coached him at Texas? Or I don't know. Anyway. More missed tackles than you like, especially in tight quarters. Only one season as a starter. Again, I don't have any problem with this particular player. As I go for Klumped again. It's the fact that that's not what you needed to pick there. That's another. You don't need a defensive tackle. You just signed, again, go get a defensive tackle next year. You just signed the two defensive tackles you already had. So whatever money you signed him to. This doesn't make any sense to me. Who that daddy says receiver was supposed to be the pick there. Sean says he can play multiple ways on the D-line. Maybe, and maybe they see him as more of a rusher. Maybe. Sean, how do I feel about the O-line's depth compared to last year? I feel better about it. Certainly better right now than I did last year. Brian Russell says he likes the Broughton pick, especially with Bo Davis coaching him. But if that goes to part of what we were hearing in the negatives, I don't know, maybe. Johnny Culpepper, Nick Saban loved this pick by the Saints. Okay. Jack Hunter says his highlights look nice when guys don't get hands on him, but he gets pushed around. That ain't good. He doesn't get pushed off the spot. Excuse me, but he doesn't penetrate when hands land on him. Who dat daddy finds his get off is slow. He got up and went. Little Aerosmith action there. All right, moving on. After I get into the sip. Talking too much. I talked a lot this weekend, by the way. Not that this has anything to do with anything, but I didn't even get to normally I would get into what I did over the weekend. I didn't even get into it, but the 15-second version is the series, baseball series that I called this weekend. Friday had a lightning delay. And then Saturday, game 2 started at 1 o'clock. I thought the winner of game 1 would win game 2 and I'd be home by 4. No. I played 6 innings. Then they had a 2-hour and 40-minute rain delay. Then they went into the 13th inning, and the team that lost game 1 won game 2. So we had to play game 3, and I didn't get home until thought I was going to get home at like 5 o'clock. Got home at like 11. I had to beg someone to come get my kids to feed them dinner because my wife was out of town. It's an interesting weekend. All right, Jonas Sanker. Now, I will say about Jonas Sanker before I get into the player, Jonas Sanker. Did y'all see the NFL Network story on him? Thought it was very moving on how he had to deal with when the Virginia players got shot and killed. Very moving story. Go find it. It's worth watching. This is before the Saints drafted him. I saw this. When did I see that? Well, I mean, he was drafted Friday, so I guess I saw it Friday morning. Go find it. It's very moving. Now, Jonas Sanker, the player, he gets pretty good grades, and he is the 6th ranked safety on the board according to Brugler, which is fine. Now, I've heard some people say that Sanker can play corner. I don't think anybody has seen him play corner. Have we? I haven't seen him play corner. But this is not a position that the Saints need right now. They need a corner. You go take a safety. Again, another problem I had with making this pick right here. It's not the player. I actually think that this is probably this might be a better pick than the Broughton pick. As far as you talking about overall player and where someone is on your board. The pros and cons of Sanker, his strengths. Well-built athlete with long arms, and we see 6'1", 206. Effective play range, transition quickness, and drive speed. Takes fast, direct angles to the football, eating up ground fast downhill. Physical striker and brings feet through his target. Reads quarterback's eyes well from depth. Accountable. Here you go, Saints trait. Accountable, family-first leader, and voted as a team captain as a senior. So there you go, another team captain. Coaches praise his communication skills and even-keeled personality. I'm telling you, if you go watch the thing when I was telling you about it, you could probably, I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. Find it somewhere. Very well done piece on Sanker about the tragedies at Virginia and how he got through all that mess. Now, I mean, so I like him. I'm just saying, Saints, that's not a top 3. That's not a 3rd round need for this team. Weaknesses. Eyes often spend too much time in the backfield, causing him to lose connection with route combinations. Hints of tightness shows versus sudden slot receivers. Can get hung up on the play action. Thumping tackler, but can do a better job breaking upon approach to avoid misses. In other words, hope we don't get in a situation like we got in the Minneapolis Miracle. Did I say that out loud? Terrence says we desperately needed immediate starters at 40, 71, and 93, and I think we failed. And Terrence, I cannot disagree with a single word in that sentence. Lance, thanks for taking the call from the parking lot. Of course. Chad likes his aggressive play on runs. We just signed a safety for Kansas City. Yeah, absolutely. Jack Hunter. Sanker's fine, but Xavier Watts was still there. Watts is a better pure safety. We don't need a safety. Again, I don't have a problem with Sanker himself. Johnny Culpepper saw that Sanker played a lot of special teams. Yeah, but you don't draft a guy who played a lot of special teams in the third round. I mean, I hear you. Yeah, I'm sorry. It just came out, Lance. I didn't mean to bring up the MM. All right. Next player. Got to get through all of them. Now, look, here's one where, all right, not every position's a position in need in this team. However, the more I hear about this dude, I think it's a really good fourth round pick. Okay. So I'm not going to give him a lot of grief on Danny Stutzman. I haven't heard a single person say that's a bad pick. I haven't usually on this day, I may do this Wednesday. We may not have a guest. Maybe Wednesday we'll do another just us together. And even though I don't do grades, I haven't done enough of reading grades of other outlets. Maybe we'll spend Wednesday talking about grades from other people and seeing if we agree with them. Regardless, I haven't heard a bad word about Danny Stutzman. So I'm going to let it slide that this is definitely not one of the top positions of need. I guess once you get to round 4 anyway, I don't nearly have as much a problem as drafting best player available. And this kid could come in and start right away. I mean, that's everything I'm saying. Look, he's the 3rd ranked linebacker on Dane Brugler's board. Okay. 22 years old, just turned 22. 6'3", 233. Wow. He played in a 4.25 base last year, which obviously is different than what he's going to play here. He led the Sooners in tackles each of the past 3 seasons, finished his career with 377 tackles, which is top 10 all time in Oklahoma history. That's saying something. Dane Brugler says, quote, with his field IQ and toughness, Stutzman is at his best diagnosing in the run game and playing with violence at the point of contact to tune up his target. He showed more promise in coverage as an underclassman compared to his senior tape. Maybe that's what made him go down a little bit. Overall, quote, Stutzman doesn't have the proven coverage talent required of the modern day linebackers, but he is gap sound run defender and a thundering tackler with swagger on and off the field that will be welcome in the NFL. Sounds like a dude that's going to make this team and contribute right away, right? So again, 4th round, I don't have as much of a problem at drafting a linebacker, which again isn't a position of necessarily of need. Strengths, big athlete, plays fast and physical, quick to key, press, and flow, and won't back down from pulling blockers in a hole. Sees through blocks when mirroring at line to track the football. Uses hand and length to leverage and work off blocks. Love all those things. Outstanding leader and heartbeat of the program. What are we seeing? A recurring theme here. NFL Scout says, and I quote from Dane Brugler's strengths and weaknesses, he connects with everyone in the locker room. He gave up some of his NIL money for the walk-ons so they felt seen. The dude gets it. Again, I have no problem with this pick whatsoever. It's tough to knock that. What are his weaknesses, according to Dane Brugler? Over-aggressive flying downhill and needs to develop better balance with run patience. That can be coached. Tight-hipped and labors versus misdirection. Also can be coached. And that would take more work, but it can be coached. Too much delay reacting to throws, didn't register pass breakup as a senior. Might be a liability in one-on-one against NFL backs in space. I mean, that sounds like somebody you can plug in a 3-4 in the middle, right? Does to me. Gerard Semino, awesome pick. Stutzman's a good linebacker. Jay Tucker, of course, that's what I'm saying. Changing the D, going to 3-4. Need more linebackers. Not playing 2 anymore. Of course, I'm not saying they don't need one. I'm just saying what they need over this position. Ray Barra says he's a thumper. Saints could use some thumpers. Mallymal's going back into, why do the Carr and Saints have to be a game of chicken? That's exactly what it is, Mallymal. That's what it is. It's a game of chicken. So Stutzman pick is one of my favorites. It's, if I had to tell you my top 3 favorite picks the Saints made in this draft, Banks is number 1, not just because he was number 1. It was the need of needs, and I was worried the Saints wouldn't get it right, and they did. Then it would be Devin Neal, who we're going to get to in just a minute, in the 6th round, a 6th-round running back who I think could come in and maybe not start, but definitely contribute right away. And then Stutzman. Okay, I don't have a big opinion on the next one here. Just a few picks later, 131, another Louisville pick. When's the Saints have ever picked 2 players from Louisville in the same year? Quincy Riley, cornerback, position of need. Could he come in and start right away? I don't know. He's a 4th-round pick. 5'11", 191. He's a little older, too. What is the deal with Louisville and older players? May 26, 2001. He's about to be 24 years old. I mean, that's not super old. Jack Hunter says about Stutzman, we need a linebacker that can rush out the edge, and we don't have that. I hear you. But it sounds like he's be better served for the run game. Let's see what Mr. Brugler says about Quincy Riley. He's 11th best cornerback, so you get that at the bottom around 4. It's not bad. He says, 2-year starter, above average athletic talent across the board, immediate speed, won high school state championships in both the 100 and 200 meters, and ran track in college. Thumbs up for that one. He has the wheels to recover and regain phase after a misstep in coverage. That's good. Locates and plays ball well. 54 passes defensed in 55 games. That's really good. Had 403 career interception return yards. Excellent. No other player in the draft class had more than 250. Wasn't flagged for a coverage penalty in his final 23 games. That's outstanding. And here's something that will probably, I mean, this guy seems like a lock to make the team as well, besides the fact he's a position of need. Return punts in 2024 before he was injured. Louisville cornerbacks coach Steve Ellis on Riley said, quote, he's the best I have ever coached, and I have coached some real ones. Now, what does Dane Brugler say are some of his weaknesses? Short with average frame and bulk. Hey, don't call him short. Call him diminutive. Is that the right diminutive? There you go. West Banker's trying to use big words again. Size isn't deterrent against slants and fades. Ordinary play strength, has trouble getting off of wide receiver blocks. That ain't good. Less than 5% of career snaps came in the slot. We just talked about an older prospect. I hadn't even read that. That's not a lot of negatives. Another good pick, I think. Terrence says I nailed it. Feeling good about this show today. What do y'all think? Johnny Culpepper says Lewis Reddick at ESPN. By the way, that's the guy at ESPN that I listen to. Okay? Y'all can listen to whoever y'all want. But he likes Shough, by the way, too. So I guess I'll have to listen to him. But Lewis Reddick says this was a sleeper pick and had him graded there. Did Lewis Reddick go to Louisville? He loved him some Shough. And he loves Quincy Riley, too. I don't know. Maybe. But I'm a Lewis Reddick fan. I mean, you're talking about a guy who worked in the NFL for quite a bit. He knows what he's talking about. All right, here's the one. Here's my second favorite pick of this Saints draft. I wish the Saints would have picked a running back or a wide receiver I told you this, with the 40th pick or at least in the 3rd round. However, if you're not going to do that, at least you get a guy who I believe is unsung in this. I like Devin Neal. He's a guy that I've been kind of looking at. And I think in the 6th round, you get a guy that can contribute right away. Now, if you look, he's the 15th ranked running back, according to Dane Brugler. However, I will say this. Even if you think, okay, 15, that sucks for running back. 15th, this is a deep running back class. Okay? So maybe that's why the Saints waited as well. 4-year starter at Kansas. He is the He set the school record. Now, Kansas isn't this juggernaut of football. Said the school record for rushing yards, the school 4,343 rushing yards. School record for rushing touchdowns had 49, total touchdowns 53, and he had 20 games where he rushed for 100 yards or more. Now, again, the Big 12 is not known as this power defensive conference. Kansas isn't known as, whatever, but they've been better. What does Brugler say his strengths are? Quality vision to press line and find creases. Skillfully uses patience and pace to set up defenders and leave them diving at ankles. Strings together moves with stop, start, agility, and lateral jukes. Recalibrates on move to find escape routes. Excellent hand-eye coordination as a pass catcher. Gotta have that. Protects the football. Knock on wood. He only had 2 fumbles over his last 502 carries. I know you're going to be shocked when I say this one. Voted a 2024 team captain. Both his high school, college, and college coaches have said he is a, quote, unbelievable person. Saints have a type. He is number 5 in Big 12 history in career rushing yards. Now, his weaknesses. Not an inside grinder as a 213-pound frame would suggest. I don't like that. More likely to sidestep tackles rather than drop a shoulder and punish defenders. I don't like that either. Now, this one's misleading because I saw some highlights on him. Average long speed, doesn't have a 5th gear, which allows pursuit to catch him. However, one thing I've seen on his long speed, he's elusive. He knows he sees holes, man. So there was one run in particular where he scored a touchdown, about a 60-yard touchdown. And they had a bunch of defensive backfield. I mean, I think it was a pass, was like a 3rd and 8 play, I think. So they had a lot of defensive backs in the game, and he weaved through them, man. He didn't necessarily show a ton of speed, but he weaved through. I love the way he weaved through them. He doesn't play special teams. His best pass blocking, according to this, was 2 up and down. I'm a big fan of this pick. For sure. Saban likes it. UBN says Devin Neal's a great pick. When he says anything good about the Saints, you know it's good. J. Tucker Rafferty says he set all the Kansas rushing records, breaking Gale Sayers and John Riggins records. That's, you put those names in there. Montreal says that's a steal. Yep, we just said that. Gale Sayers went to Kansas. I wasn't even thinking about that. Didn't he get called? What did he call the Kansas Comet? Wasn't that Gale Sayers' nickname? David Bordelon says, GM Jim, proof will be in the pudding. B is his immediate grade A+ of Shough. And it's definitely not an A+. Okay, again, I'm not giving grades, and I've already said this. I hear you if you give it a B, a C, or a D. Okay, cool. There's no way it's an A, and I don't think there's any way it's an F either. It's amazing when you don't mortgage the future for the present. They've already mortgaged the future for the present. Jack Hunter, Montrell Johnson is an undrafted free agent, would have been just as good, but 6th round. I saw Montrell Johnson do a lot in high school. I saw him probably 6 or 7 games at De La Salle. Mal likes, and he is an excellent running back. And then obviously at Florida, he was even better. Again, my mouse here is not wanting to work. I don't know what is going on here. There we go. I like Neil Style, says Mal. Patient and runs behind his pads. Good vision as well. Mal says pass blocking is teachable. I agree. Johnny Culpepper asks a great question. Does Kendra Miller still have a place on this ball club? As of right now, yes. But I don't. We'll see. We'll see. UBN says, Neil tore up that Colorado cornerback that was led by the Colorado team that was led by the greatest quarterback in the history of college football. Okay, now you're just getting mean now. All right, so I like Devin Neal, 5'11", 213. He'll turn 22 on August the 12th. Terrence likes it as well. All right, last 2 picks here. And I'm going to butcher this name. Sorry. This tight end's name. I know his first name is Maliki. Is it Matavayo, Gabe? Oh, he doesn't know. He doesn't stay up to watch UCLA football. Tight end. I'll tell you this. I don't know anything about this dude, obviously, so I'm not going to even begin to give you an opinion. Because I'm not like other people. I'm not going to give you an opinion on something I don't know about, and I don't know about this dude. I will look more into him. I haven't had time to yet. But I do like 6'6", 260. That is a tight end. Gerard Simmons says Gale Sayers was indeed the Kansas Common. I thought so. Let's see. He's an 11th ranked tight end by Dane Brugler. 2-year starter. Let's see. He played Bieniemy's balanced scheme, played 37 points. Yeah, don't forget, he played for Eric Bieniemy last year. 37.2% of his snaps in the slot, 32.3 in line, 30.5% wide. Former top recruit at Oregon, he transferred to UCLA as a junior, and his production steadily increased. Let's see here. Stats. Do we have stats on him? Yes. All right, last year he started 8 games. He caught 51 passes, 506 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And never caught more than 14 in any other season before that. Strengths, according to Dane Brugler, outstanding size. We just told you that, with strong bone structure and proportionate bulk. Good sink and release to quickly enter and set up routes. Cleanly squares off 90-degree route turns. Basketball background. Hand-eye coordination translates to catch point. Not a pushover with the ball. Would-be tackles will fall off of him. Weaknesses: didn't put seam stretching speed on college tape. Exposes chest at time at line and needs to improve hand technique against early jams. Little bit of a wind up with his hands before engaging as a blocker. Sounds like he needs to work on his blocking. But I mean, what do we expect in the 7th round? I mean, Sean says he's known as a good blocking tight end. I mean, look, are we convinced that Holker's not going to play? I don't know what's up with whatever happened with Dallin Holker, who's the undrafted free agent guy they got from Colorado State last year. Never even did. I thought he was going to end up playing. Didn't do anything. Ray Bauer, a big plus for the run game and short yardage. I mean, 7th rounder. If he makes a team, it's Lanyap, right? Karen says his best friend spent a lot of time with this kid. Says he's high character. Got a lot of high character dudes. So we'll see what happens with Maliki. And 6'6", 260, just turned 22 years old last month. Yeah, I mean, Mal. Kubiak barely used Holker. Why? You got to think he gets a chance, right? In this new offense? Maybe, we'll see. Then Mr. Irrelevant, as far as the Saints are concerned, with the 254th pick, 7th round, Fadil Diggs, edge rusher, 6'4", 257 pounds. He's a little bit older. He will be 24 in October. What does Dane Brugler say about him? 24th best edge rusher on the board. However, don't let that fool you. This was, of all the positions, that had to be the deepest in this draft. So we'll see. Edge rusher, just 1 year, a starter. See what kind of stats he has. Played the Texas A&M his first 4 seasons. He started all 12 games in 23. He had 36 tackles. And then transferred to play 2024 at Syracuse. Started all 12 games. So he has started 32 games. Excuse me. He's played in 45. He started 32. And he had 7.5 sacks last year, 15.5 in his career. And guess what he was at Texas A&M in 2022 and 2023? That would be team captain. Man, how many what does that make? 5 team captains? Wow. 5 team captains. Well, I'll tell you what, if anything else that I didn't recognize before we went through all this here on the show today, is they kind of went back to their roots, right? Kellen Moore or no Kellen Moore. That's the Mickey Loomis blueprint. Hate Mickey Loomis. I get it. Not me. I'm just telling you what it is. They went back to the blueprint, and they went and drafted high character dudes. Not saying they didn't have them the last few years. I'm just saying they went back to the blueprint for sure this year. Mally Mal says he hopes under Kellen Moore, young players develop better under Dennis. Amen. Jack Hunter says he likes the Diggs pick here, but the rest of the draft is kind of trash. All right. Again, we're going to spend a whole lot of time, and I mean a whole lot of time, on Wednesday and Friday. I really think we're going to do that. I think Wednesday we're going to go no guest. What do you think of that, Gabe? You think just going through some back? Let's bring Gabe on. There we go. What do you think of Wednesday? We just go through other media sites' draft grades and just kind of talk about them and get more. Why not?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Comments again. And Friday, Jeff Duncan's going to be on Friday, so I know that for sure. So I think that's what I'm leaning to. If I change my mind, I'll let you know. All right, Gabe Henderson, real quickly. I want to talk about Shedeur Sanders, and we're already at 1:45. We got about a half an hour left in the show. I got a longer than usual last word about the Zurich Classic. Tell me your thoughts about the Saints draft.
I like Banks.
Okay. Did, huh? A lot of silence after that. Well, I know what you think about Tyler Shough. You think the same thing about Tyler. By the way, hold on. Sorry. I hate to cut you off, but we got to do this because I don't want to forget about our friends at Evangeline Securities. They mean so much to me. And we told you earlier we'll let you know more about them and how they can help you figure out what your family run or probably held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. I know you've asked, how do they do it? Well, after their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process from among established private equity funds from around the world. They'll maximize the return for the founder and his or her family. You can watch games in Washington, Buffalo, wherever the hell you want if you sell your business. Evangeline can help you do that. They're the top producer on their platform. Very few companies like them in this area, none with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed and ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important, which is
the rest of your life.
There you go. That's boring, man. Come on. You can try that again. You can get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important.
The rest of your life.
There you go. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com.
I'll do as well as you do.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. All right. So you don't love the Tyler Shough pick. Okay.
No.
What about Danny Stutzman?
Well, the post that I asked you about, he had a post before last season. And the caption on said post was, "I'm like communion, that cracker with the juice."
I'm trying not to spit my coffee all over the screen.
That's just amazing. That is such a good quote. And I think he's just your stereotypical Oklahoma linebacker. I mean, he's a gritty dude.
Brian Bosworth.
Kind of, except he has a chance to
except he didn't get drafted in the first round, and so really can't be a bust. Yeah. He might not make the team, but he can't really be a bust if you draft him.
I think he'll make the team. He's a good player, as you mentioned. I mean, he leads Oklahoma in a lot of stats. Good player.
All right. Jeff Haspel says, I think that's what they were going for. I think this is a good B draft. Terrence, captain, lots of captains. Mark says, sign Keenan Allen. Maybe. They got a little money, not a lot.
Fans hated people with injury problems.
Well, I mean, you got nothing to lose. No. It's just not that.
I mean, I guess you could say the same for using a pick on Tyler Shough. But hold on, before we keep talking about that, I saw a post a little bit ago that I just had to read because I was almost in tears backstage. So someone posted Derek Carr. I guess you could call it a sermon. He was speaking at a Las Vegas church, and he was
they were talking. I never saw this. They were the other commenters were talking about this earlier.
And so he was talking about his shoulder injury and just all of this other stuff, next steps. He was speaking in a church. That's all you need to know. And so I've seen this account pop up He's got 4.8 thousand followers. He's pretty popular among Saints fans. Joe Horn's cell phone.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that one.
So he posted, imagine being a Saints fan, just hammered in Vegas after a 3-day bender, heading to the church thinking it might help you for the unforgivable stuff you did the last few days. And then you look up and there's Derek frickin' Carr talking about his shoulder injury.
Oh boy. I'm gonna leave that one alone. No, I can't. I can't.
My goodness.
It's gonna leave that one alone.
Yeah. But yeah, no, Tyler Shough, I mean, you touched on it. Derek Carr kind of forced the Saints' hand here.
Look, and I don't mean to be mean. I'm just saying this, and Lord knows I've been wrong before, but if Tyler Shough or Spencer Rattler start for this team this year all year long,
get ready for a top 10.
Whoever said they're going to, whoever said they'll be drafted in the top 10 again next year, 100% right. There's no doubt about it.
I've said this about 1 billion times over the last week and a half. I'm not a scout. I don't know. None of us know what's going to happen with Tyler Shough. But as you mentioned, the dude played 7 years in college.
7.
He's going to be 26 years old.
He was born in 1999, and to put that in context,
ever takes an NFL snap.
Put that in context. You were born in 1998, right?
Yes.
My son was born in 1998, and he's already given me a grandson who's going to be 2 next month. So there you go. Put that into context.
Let's put this into context. It's good that Tyler drafted and signed with the team because in a few months he has to be off his parents' insurance.
That's true. That's very true. He'll finally have his own insurance.
It's just not. I just have a hard time buying into a guy with limited experience. Whose tape isn't fantastic, his numbers don't jump off the page, and who is in college forever. I have a hard time believing someone like that will work out at the NFL level, but I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again.
No doubt about it. All right, let's move on because I do want to talk about the Shedeur Sanders situation, and I got to say, and look, here's a comment. David says, what is going on with my mouse this morning? Find it interesting that the Sanders camp released the prank video immediately. Tyler Warren was also prank called and only heard. What is that? I don't know what that means.
The Sanders camp didn't release.
That's not where I saw it from. I mean, they had to get it from somewhere.
Morons who did it released the video.
Yeah, but that's not where there was video of Shedeur himself. So they probably did. But
getting the call. I mean,
but even so, who cares?
They're going to record that.
Yeah, I don't even know that. I'm not sure, David, where you're going with that.
Yeah, no.
Here's my thing on the whole situation. All right.
Okay.
Somebody mentioned multiple people mentioned, including one of my friends on Facebook mentioned that there's got to be some kind of collusion or something. There's no collusion here. Okay. I think what it comes down to is I think everyone's grades on Shedeur Sanders obviously were influenced by the fact that his dad was one of the greatest NFL players of all time. I think Deion Sanders is a top 50 NFL player in the history of all time. Now, you may say top 50, that's great. You may say crazy low or crazy high or whatever it is. Being one of the 50 best NFL players in the history of the game is definitely saying something. He might be higher than that. He might be top 20 of all time. Some people have him that. But regardless.
Put it this way, to put it into context, top 50 all time. There are 53 players on a roster. There's 32 teams. That's 1,696 NFL players every year. So top 50 all time is pretty damn good.
And my point of all this is if Shedeur Sanders' name was Shedeur Jones or Shedeur Smith, and he didn't have a famous daddy, would he have been predicted to go as high as he was? And my guess would be no. Now, I'm not trying to take anything away from his talent, but regardless, I think everyone thinks it's shocking that if you don't think it's shocking that he fell to the 5th round, you're just a liar and a hater. That's your own problem. Okay. I think everybody thinks it's shocking that he fell to the 5th round. And I think his talent, even though I was down on his talent more than Dr. Vitalis and a lot of other people thought he was an automatic top 10 kind of talent. I just don't see, I just don't know that he would have been in the same position had his last name not been Sanders. That's just my opinion.
Well, let's call it for what it is. I don't know if he was ever a top 10 talent.
Oh, no,
But
I don't think he was.
The way that Dion, Colorado, Shedeur, and everyone in that camp has been campaigning for him has led to this.
Yep.
That
I agree.
they generated all this buzz around. Let's call it for what it is. Shedeur is a fantastic quarterback. That doesn't mean he's a fantastic NFL talent, but at the college level, he was very, very good.
Yeah,
And
no, he was.
we saw what we witnessed over the weekend was unprecedented. That doesn't mean there's collusion, but to put it into context, this is a guy who came into the year with plus 100 odds at DraftKings to be taken number 1 overall. There was no legal trouble. There were no on-field struggles. There were no injury issues, and he fell into the 5th round. He should not have fallen this far. However, I mean, you predict. A lot of other people saw it coming. He was not going to be taken in the 1st round. That has nothing to do with him. This was not a very good quarterback class, and there were not a ton of quarterback needy teams who were willing to use prime picks, no pun intended.
Prime, yeah.
On a quarterback they weren't sure was ready. The moment that it all changed situationally for me was when the Browns took Dylan Gabriel over Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, and then took Shedeur anyway.
I can understand Tyler Shough. I can understand Jalen Milroe. Obviously, Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, sure. But the moment that Dylan Gabriel went, the situation changed. It wasn't about anything related to his play or him in general. It became Shedeur is not good enough or not worth this pick considering the headache that comes with him. And I'm not saying it's necessarily him, but his camp has generated so much media and there's so much of a cult following that comes with him that it's just not worth it for some teams. I mean, the reason that so many teams passed on him is because I'm just going to use my team as an example. The Houston Texans don't need someone like Shedeur Sanders.
Right.
Because we've already got a young quarterback. And a lot of teams in the NFL do. A lot of teams are set. But Dion has made it very clear he wants his son to start, and he believes his son has the talent to be an NFL starter. And he very well might. Deion Sanders knows a lot better than I do when it comes to starting talent and his son. But once those guys started falling, I believe it really just became a matter of he's not worth the headache. And I also believe they grossly miscalculated the interest in him in the draft process.
One thing you said, well, not one thing, that last 2 minutes of what you said, and Terrence says you're nailing it, and I think a lot of people are agreeing with you. One doesn't. Lance Stobart says, don't answer this yet because I got a point to make. Was he really, though? He's talented, but his skill was shaky. Hunter and Milroe covered up a lot. Agree on Gabriel. Here's my thing. Mike Mayock was talking about it Friday morning. Okay. Friday morning, Mayock, I thought, had an excellent point, and it was everyone just wanted to defend Shedeur and say how this was before the 2nd round, much less the 5th round. It's funny because Saturday morning, they didn't even talk about it hardly at all because they didn't know what else to say. They had already been defending him. He's got to go now. He's got to go now. And he didn't go in the 2nd round. And so they just stopped talking about it because they didn't know what to say. But I thought Mike Mayock was Rich Eisen almost attacked Mike Mayock for saying this. But he said, now that he's fallen out of the 1st round, we don't know where he's going to go. Mike Mayock was the first person I heard say this. He could drop super far now because once he gets past that range, especially if he doesn't go in the 2nd round here, and he said he started talking about teams that really needed a quarterback. He said, if the Saints or Browns don't really take him here, or the Steelers didn't have a second-round pick, he goes, he may just fall who knows how far because of exactly what you said. Teams don't want this distraction. They certainly don't want it they don't want to, no team wants to have a backup quarterback who's going to have a microphone and a camera and his dozens of microphones and cameras in his face throughout training camp and probably into the regular season or whatever. It's just not worth it for them. And I thought his point was great. And I'm like, you know what? That makes a whole lot of sense. And then I started thinking, you know what? This dude may fall. That's what I started thinking, because I didn't overnight. I'm like, okay, the Browns will take him with the 33rd pick, or maybe the Saints will end up taking him, or the Steelers will trade up to get him or whatever. But when I heard Mayock say this, I'm like, this might be a drastic fall, because you're right. If he doesn't get picked in the second round, he automatically becomes a backup quarterback, just about automatically. And they just don't want the circus for this. And I think that's why once he got past the second round, then it's not a surprise that he fell to the fifth after that.
Yeah, I want to clarify something. So we both use this term, and I think I know how we feel about it. We use the term distraction, and that can come off negatively. I don't think it's Shedeur who is the distraction. I think it's the people
I agree
that
wholeheartedly.
he's surrounded himself with. And for better or for worse, Dion being his father, Shiloh being a very supportive brother, all of the following that he's built up, that is the distraction. It's not being used in a negative context. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, Sean, Cleveland will be nice for Hard Knocks. I don't think they're eligible to be on Hard Knocks. You have to have made the playoffs, in the last 2 or 3 seasons or something?
I think you've almost got to make the exception.
I don't think they make exceptions. I think there's like some kind of rule. It's in the, I think it's actually part of the whatever the contract with the players union, I believe. But look,
yeah. So the one thing,
just to cut another minute or two on this, because we do need to move on. But
I think we see eye to eye on this, and I think we'll see eye to eye on this next thing as well. There were 2 people that there were multiple people. There were 2 groups of people, I'll say, that embarrassed themselves around this whole situation.
Dr. Vitalis, numero uno.
Mel Kiper. No, not number 1. Mel Kiper is number 2. And those kids who prank called him.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
And that goes for the same people who prank called Tyler Warren. I saw there were people who were prank calling players.
And another quarterback that's drafted late. Who was it again?
I don't think there was a quarterback who was.
It wasn't a quarterback.
I'm not sure. There was an offensive lineman that was drafted late.
Okay.
But Tyler Warren got called. Shedeur got called. We don't use certain words, show, and so I'll just say that it's effed up what they did.
Well, we do say we still haven't started the segment, but we really are going to start Dumbass of the Week segment, and that dude would be a prime candidate.
Anyone who
Dumbass of the Week
goes on. Yeah, I mean, just how immature and inconsiderate do you have to be? That's not a prank anymore.
Yeah.
You are people's livelihoods when you're doing it.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Might sound extreme, but it is these athletes have waited their entire lives for that call. And to give them the impression that their dreams are about to come true just for cheap laughs. I mean, I could not. People sent me the video over the week, and they're like, "Oh my god!"
You still couldn't believe it.
There were so many people saying this is so funny. Not for a second
I didn't think
it was funny. I mean, I was so disappointed in people who did that.
Well, I was
taken aback. I'm not surprised, but
we're gonna move on. But I do want to say a couple more things real quick before we move on. Along with what you said, Montreal says Atlanta should get in trouble with it. Terrence backs it up. Falcons should be penalized. I agree wholeheartedly, and I don't think it's a coincidence they're out there basically begging for mercy and realize how stupid they sound. They absolutely should be punished for it. And just because you're saying sorry now doesn't mean you shouldn't be punished for it.
I think it's a slippery slope. There needs to be an investigation. I think they came out and said because there was an apology, there's no investigation. We need to see. Someone on TikTok, I believe, said, I believe it was Jeff Pearlman, said that he wouldn't be surprised if journalists started talking to frat guys at Ole Miss to see if they could find the real story. Because if what that apology said is the real story, isn't isn't the truth, then people need to be punished. Because if this was done out of malice from anyone, it's unacceptable.
Oh, it's definitely done as malice.
Well, it was from the kids.
Yeah,
I'm saying like Jeff Albrecht supplied them with the phone number knowingly and stuff like that, then they should get in trouble. But if it truly was, it was on his iPad and his
You need to be punished for leaving your iPad open for anyone to see. I'm sorry.
I'm not saying, no, I mean,
you're a defensive coordinator for NFL football team.
I know my parents' iPad codes, so it's not that they left it open, but it's
whatever. Oh, last thing
I don't know if I agree with the Falcons.
Last thing I'm gonna say on this too, I don't think this fall happens. And I know this may sound that one doesn't have to do with another, but I think it does. I don't think this happens if they don't have this retirement of jersey ceremony.
No, I don't think that had anything to do with it. I think it more had to do with the fact that he had multiple chances to work out, be it at Senior Bowls, combines, and all of that. And they chose to skip all of that and turn their own combine.
I think that was the last nail.
Event.
I think that was the last nail.
And then there were reports that he didn't interview well. Brian Daboll came out and kind of dodged the question. I don't know how much of that is true, but that would also lead to it.
Yeah. Anyway. So. All right, moving on. I'm going to talk about Saints. Now's the time to get your final comments in about Saints, because we're going to do man versus machine. And then when Gabe goes off, I'm going to spend like 5 minutes talking about Saints before I get to the last word. The last word, you're going to want to hear what I have to say, because even though it's not specifically about Saints, it's about New Orleans sports. It's about the Zurich Classic and being on this weekend, and how ridiculous I think it is that the PGA is scheduled that for this weekend. Anyway, that's what my last word is today. So if you want to get a comment in on the Saints, now's the time to put it in. Again, you got about 5 more minutes, and then we're going to move on and end the show. All right. Man versus machine. And once again, I was so busy this morning, I forgot to ask the machine what he thinks. So we're just going to let you talk for a moment. The machine is 6-2. I think they're perfect in like their last 3 picks. Man is 2 of the last 3. Man's been on a nice streak himself. Gabe Henderson, playing the role of man, has done well. 3-5 looks not great, but it's certainly better than what it was at 0-4 at one point. Machine now 6-2. Today, you got the Heat playing tonight, and you got Tyler Hero having a big night, over 24.5 points at even money.
Yeah. Well, you said it's minus 110, right? Okay. So the thing with this is, I think this is a little too much of an adjustment considering Tyler Hero's performance the other day. A 37-point loss. He only had 13 points, 5 of 13 from the field, and he went 1 for 3 from 3. It was his lowest scoring night since March 21st, and I believe it was his first time not hitting multiple threes in almost a month as well in a game. If you look at his performances prior to that against the Cavs, he's put up 33 and he put up 21 in game 1. But what I'm really looking at here is the Heat have not been a team or a franchise that have just rolled over what Eric Spoelstra's about. That's not what Pat Riley's been about. And they're facing an embarrassing first-round sweep here and elimination from the playoffs. I think guys like Bam Adebayo are going to show out. I think Tyler Hero is going to show out. In his last 2 do-or-die games, which were in the play-in, he hit 30 and 38 points respectively. I just think this is going to be a big night. I think the Heat are going to keep this competitive. I don't know if they avoid getting swept, but I think Tyler Hero is going to eclipse the 24.5 point mark.
All right. And what do you think the machine is going to say?
I think the machine's going to say under, because he scored 13 last game, and he's only gone over this once in 3 games in the series.
The machine on whether Tyler Hero will score more than 24.5 points tonight. It's a little wishy-washy answer, but the machine does give me an answer. Given the Heat's dire situation, Hero likely will come out aggressive, but Cleveland's defense could limit his efficiency. His season average, 23.9 points per game, is just below the 24-point threshold. And Game 3's 13-point dud raises concerns about Cleveland's adjustments. My prediction, though, is it's a close call, but I lean toward Hero scoring more than 24 points tonight, assuming he gets 18 to 20 shot attempts and hits a few threes. Expect something like 25 to 28 points if he finds his rhythm early, though Cleveland's defense could cap him under 24 if they repeat Game 3's strategy. And it says it's important to note that player performance predictions are inherently uncertain due to game flow, fouls, or unexpected adjustments. Check injury reports or lineup changes closer to tip-off, as those could impact his minutes. So man and the machine are on the same team tonight. Tyler Hero, over 24.5 points at even money. Or basically at even money.
Standard juice. Yeah.
Standard juice. All right. Exciting stuff. We'll see if y'all can stay on fire, and we will talk to you on Wednesday.
Sounds good.
All right. Do. Man and machine. I'm telling you, they're hot. We were making jokes, y'all. All making jokes. Thought it was some funny stuff. Thought it was funny. Say stunk. They don't stink anymore, do they? Charles Mangus, great show. Nothing but a number. It was nothing but a number. Not sure what you're talking about there. Let's see. Only this probably the last comment of the day as I move into the last word. Thank y'all for sticking with us this long. 2 hours and 12 minutes into the show. I knew y'all would be fired up today, and I had a feeling we'd have over a 2-hour show today. We'll see what happens on Wednesday. Sean says, do I think the coach should receive a suspension for failing to protect confidentiality? I don't know about suspension, Sean. I just think something should be done. And even if it's as harmless, a quote-unquote harmless, it's still not harmless. Someone got harmed. Shedeur Sanders, Tyler Warren, and whoever else, they got harmed. They got pranked. I think it's ridiculous. You shouldn't just be able to have your iPad there and someone be able to get in your iPad. And Gabe talks about knowing his parents' iPad's codes. It's like Terrence said, your dad's not an NFL coach. If your dad was an NFL coach, Gabe, and left his iPad code for you to go look at, it'd be one thing if it's just his personal iPad, but I mean, just saying. I don't know. Ray says, should have got a new phone or would have been here sooner. He got a new phone. That was his phone. No one had, that was a special burner phone just for that event. That's what made it even worse. All right, more talk on Wednesday. Again, I think we're going to do Wednesday is we may have a guest, like come on briefly. But even if we have a guest, I'm going to spend the first part of the show talking about draft grades and talking about, because we never got into that. I always like to do that. Ray says he would have got a new phone. I gotcha. I'm going to go through draft grades. I usually do that right after a draft. I didn't have time to do that. I was so busy this weekend, and there was no question that's not what this show needed to be about. This show needed to be about the thoughts on Tyler Shough. And again, what I said in the open, if you missed Derry's dime, go back, and when we're done here, you can rewind and listen to the first part of it. It came, I think I started the dime, what was it, around the 35-minute mark? Gabe, did you mark it down? 35-minute mark, somewhere around there? 35, 40-minute mark, somewhere around there. That's when I did the dime. Go back and listen to what I said. And to me, my problem with Shough is multiple, okay? It's not necessarily with Shough. I'm not a big fan of his. That's not the quarterback I would have picked. But I'm not going to knock the Saints for going and take the quarterback that they think that their scouting led them to go pick. Nick says it was around the 45-minute mark, okay? Somewhere around there. That's not what I'm knocking him for, okay? I'm not knocking the Saints because I didn't agree with the Tyler Shough over some of the other quarterbacks, okay? I would have rather Jalen Milroe. I didn't even get into that, okay? And I told you why last week I'd rather Jalen Milroe, because if he doesn't work out at quarterback, I think there's so many other things Jalen Milroe can do. But that's not why I'm getting on the Saints. If that's who the Saints say is the best quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, fine. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But the problem that I have is that and not necessarily in this order, is that they reached for him at 40. He would have still been there when they drafted in the third round, in my opinion. And again, if you don't think so, he certainly would have been there the bottom of the second round. Nobody else really needed a quarterback right there. You could have traded your 2 third-round picks kind of in the bottom of the second round and been better off there. Dime was at 30 minutes exactly, Gabe says. Chad says, we just need faith in our new coach and roll with it. You're missing the point. Again, I'm not knocking the Shough pick because it's Shough, and I don't like, and I had other quarterbacks higher on whatever, quote unquote, my board was. I don't like the Shough pick because, again, where they picked it at 40, that's absurd. Picking Shough at pick number 40 is absurd. There isn't any other. I don't care what intel you think you got. I'm going to push back on that one. Could have got him in the third round. If not, certainly at the bottom of the second. Okay. The main problem I have with it is it opens a whole Pandora's box of other stuff on the Derek Carr situation that maybe I was wrong about. And maybe I'm going to have to eat crow po' boy on. Somebody's lying. Okay. Or somebody's not telling you the whole scope of what's happened. Derek Carr is now saying the Saints have known about this all along. And if they have known about this all along, then they're 100% incredibly and utterly inept that they redid this contract and pushed just $67 million against the cap next year to push this money into next year, and you start off next year on just a crappy slate. Just eat the $50 million this year. It sucks. I get it. It's hard to do, but you can figure out how to do it. If you're going to part ways with Derek Carr, then part ways with Derek Carr. No, now you're like, that's why I still think common sense dictates he's still going to start. But the Saints just haven't been upfront with anybody. It's one thing to not show your cards. You're not telling us anything. You can't not tell people anything. You know why? Because lots of people who buy season tickets, who spend multiple thousands of dollars on season tickets, when for a lot of these people who make $60,000 or $70,000 a year as a family, it's their vacation. It's robbing Peter to pay Paul to still be able to go to these games because it's what they love and what they want to do. They've earned the right to find out what the hell's going on with this franchise, and you're not telling them anything. So my problem is, and I may have a bigger problem with Derek Carr when we find out real scoop later, and if he's been lying, then I'm gonna say all y'all were right. He's a D-bag. I'm pissed off at him, whatever. But it's still not going to let the Saints off the hook, because one way or another, they fumbled this ball bigger than Derek Carr's fumbled it. The fans deserve the right to know what the hell's going on, okay? And if they've known this since February, they should have told you. Just saying. Nola Man says he's one of them season ticket holders. He's kicking himself. We talked about this, Nola Man. Don't give up yet. I think it's the right thing. Jason Sykes says, y'all need to chill. Give the dude a chance. Some of y'all make the city look bad if he flops. Okay, but maybe he won't. We still got Rattler either way. I'm not sure if you're talking about Carr or Shough. I think they're going to give Shough a chance no matter what anybody's saying. Nobody's not giving Shough a chance. Chad says he agrees. We did not address an offensive weapon as a receiver. That's why he loved Tyler Warren. I hear you. But they needed Kelvin Banks more than they needed Tyler Warren. Just saying. It's 40 that I have a problem with, not 9. Larry Gibson, the fact it was the Falcons going back to the prank. They used the Saints in the prank and went to punishments. Okay. All right. That's it for comments today. Again, we'll be back Wednesday. We're going to have plenty of time to take comments. I got to go to the last word here because it's time to say goodbye. For today's last word, we offer a local public service announcement. In case you didn't know, or more likely didn't care, unless you're Uncle Big Nick. Zurich Classic of New Orleans held its annual 4-day event at TPC Avondale this weekend. For the record, Andrew Novak and Ben Griffin held off a charge by a few duos the casual golf fan mostly have never heard of. The highlight of the event, as it was last year, was that Rory McIlroy and his pal Shane Lowry competed together and were in contention until about midway Sunday or just after a lengthy weather delay. It was the first PGA victory for each Novak and Griffin, who took home the grand prize of $2.7 million, which ain't too shabby. What is shabby is what the PGA has done to the tournament by placing it where it has on the calendar. If one were to pick a time when no one was going to pay attention to golf in the Crescent City, no matter who was playing, this past weekend would have been one of those times. There's a reason why the NFL won't play here the Super Bowl. I won't play the Super Bowl here on Bacchus Sunday. There's a reason why the Pelicans usually go on a week-plus road trip around the same time of year. It's no different in New Orleans Jazz Fest, especially when it's NFL draft weekend or potentially Pelicans playoff weekend. In other words, if you wanted to pick a time in New Orleans when almost no one other than diehard golf fans or corporate types would pay attention to what you're doing, then give yourselves a pat on the back. You have succeeded again. I don't know the ins and outs of how the PGA creates a schedule, but when they decided after the 2008 event that they would move it to the end of April, it shouldn't have taken them long to realize the city had other stuff going on it cared a little more about. The city that forgot about the PGA in the last week of April. There have been multiple times the Pels are playing in the playoffs the same weekend as well, as I told you. Not this year, we get it. I love golf, and I haven't been to the event in probably close to, 20 years. Which just so happens to coincide with when they moved it to April. I know everything in sports is about money, and maybe ratings-wise, it is the best thing for the PGA to hold the Zurich Classic of New Orleans on this past weekend. But it would be nice if they actually paid attention to the New Orleans part of the Zurich Classic of New Orleans and realized that it just doesn't really work for us. Unless you want to keep playing fourth fiddle, go ahead. Keep it where it is. Just saying. I ain't going to care next year either. I'm just letting you know ahead of time. And if you keep it 10 years from now, if it's still the same weekend as the NFL Draft and Jazz Fest, I ain't going to care about it then either. That's going to wrap it up for us on this Monday. I want to thank today's guest, of course, Gabe Henderson. And you were our guest. I think it was last week or a week before last, Gabe, when I said that we had a record for comments, especially comments from how many different people commented. I think we broke that record today again. I thank you all, especially the new commenters, the new people to the show. You are now part of the Dattitude family. We have fun here. Even days when, look, if you agreed with me today, trust me, there are going to be days when we don't agree. If you disagreed with me today, it's okay. We can still have that talk, right? That's what this show's about. It's about you talking to me talking to you, and us all getting it out together as a family. We're not always going to agree, but it's going to be like if you're sitting here on my couch, here in my studio, a.k.a. my home office. If we were sitting here watching the TV and watching the draft together and getting out what we feel, you don't know what you're talking about. No, you don't know what you're talking about. That's what this show's about. That's what we do here. We talk to you and you talk back to me. That's what makes it different than a lot of other shows. And that's why we love the Dattitude family, and we hope it keeps growing. We'll talk some more on Wednesday, all right? We may or may not have a guest, who knows? We will talk more about the draft. We will talk more about Tyler Shough, and hopefully we'll talk about the good stuff, like Kelvin Banks and whoever else we want to talk about. A reminder, as we said, to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Click like. If you haven't given us a like yet, please do. And click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live, which is usually Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11 a.m. Central Time. You can also find us after the fact on these same channels and wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. And always find a replay of the show on NOLA.com/sports. You can find me on bet.nola.com. You can find our Saints Insider crew on noah.com/sports/Saints. We will see everyone on Wednesday. Have a great couple of days. Just let it roll off your back. It's not that big of a deal, right? I think. See you Wednesday. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.